Right now, billions of people are on a drug. Most of them don't think of it that way. Some of them are at a coffee shop. Some are at a pharmacy. Some are in places they'd rather not say. But the chemistry happening inside their brains is more similar than any of them would be comfortable knowing. Every drug on this list works by hijacking a system your brain already has. Systems built for real things. Real pleasure, real pain relief, real calm, real connection. The drugs don't create anything new. They just hit the same buttons, harder than life usually does. That's what makes them work. That's also what makes them dangerous. Here's every one of them explained. Caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant, a chemical that speeds up your brain and nervous system. It's hiding in your coffee, your tea, your energy drink, your soda. Most people don't call it a drug, they call it morning. Once it enters your bloodstream, caffeine travels to your brain and blocks a chemical called adenosine. Adenosine is what makes you feel tired. So, caffeine doesn't create energy, it just cuts the wire that tells you you're running low. Your neurons fire faster, your heart beats a little harder. Within 20 to 30 minutes, the world feels sharper, more manageable, more yours. That's the peak. Not a high, just a lift. But your body keeps breaking the caffeine down, and the adenosine that was waiting floods back all at once. The focus turns to irritability, the clarity turns to a headache, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a familiar thought. One more cup will sort this. Caffeine is mildly addictive, but it wraps itself in routines so tightly that most people never notice. Over time, your brain gets used to caffeine doing the heavy lifting. What started as a boost slowly becomes your baseline. Skip your usual cup and suddenly you're tired, foggy, irritable. Not because something is wrong, because your brain was expecting help that never arrived. We call it needing coffee. Your brain calls it withdrawal. Caffeine doesn't create energy, it just borrows alertness from later and sends you the bill when it's done. Nicotine. Nicotine is a stimulant found in tobacco, cigarettes, and vapes. It's not the smoke that hooks you, it's this. The moment you inhale it, nicotine shoots through your bloodstream and hits your brain in seconds, triggering a release of dopamine. That's the chemical behind focus, calm, and reward. The onset is fast and clean. Stress eases, thoughts settle. Your body feels like it just exhaled something heavier than smoke. For a few minutes, everything is slightly more okay. That's the onset, and it's exactly as controlled as it feels. Then, the dopamine drops. The calm drains away. Tension creeps back. Not the tension you had before the cigarette, a new, sharper kind. The kind that only the next cigarette fixes. That's the trap. Nicotine doesn't relax you. It creates the anxiety it then relieves. Your brain starts treating peace as something that exists only in the minutes after a hit. The longer you smoke, the more your dopamine system rewires around it. Without nicotine, ordinary life stops feeling neutral. It feels flat. Physically, it damages blood vessels, strains your heart, and scars your lungs over years. But the real hold is in your head. It makes not having it feel like a problem you need to solve, and then it sells you the solution. Alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant, a chemical that slows down your brain and central nervous system. It's at the dinner table, the birthday party, the bar after work, and the quiet kitchen at midnight. People drink to relax, to connect, to forget, or just to make the edge of a hard day softer. When it enters your bloodstream, it starts interfering with how your brain sends messages to itself. The onset is warm. Inhibitions loosen. Conversation comes easier. The social anxiety you carried in starts to dissolve. Your thoughts slow just enough that the sharp ones stop cutting. For a while, it feels like a key that fits. Then the peak arrives. Judgment softens further. Emotions rise and get louder. You say things you wouldn't sober. You miss cues you'd normally catch. Balance fades. But your brain keeps telling you everything is fine. That's the illusion alcohol is best at. It impairs your ability to notice how impaired you are. Then the come down starts, sometimes that same night. The warmth turns into weight. The looseness turns into fog. The next morning, your brain chemistry swings hard in the opposite direction. Anxiety, nausea, sensitivity to everything. That's not just dehydration. That's your nervous system overcorrecting after a night of being chemically suppressed. Alcohol is addictive in the slowest, least dramatic way possible. You start drinking to feel good, then to feel normal, then because not drinking feels like something is missing. Over time, it damages your liver, weakens your heart, and quietly lowers the floor of how good you can feel without it. It's the most socially accepted drug on earth, and it earns that acceptance by taking its time. Marijuana. Marijuana is a psychoactive drug that comes from the cannabis plant. It's smoked in joints or pipes, inhaled through vaporizers, or eaten in edibles. The active chemical is THC, which enters the bloodstream and travels to the brain, where it binds to receptors in the endocannabinoid system. That system handles mood, memory, appetite, and how intensely you experience things. The onset depends on how you take it. Smoked, it arrives within minutes. Everything gets a little more textured, sounds carry further, colors look slightly more deliberate. Small things become funny in a way that's hard to explain to someone who isn't feeling it. That's the onset. At the peak, the experience can go one of two directions. For most people in most doses, it's warm, creative, and slow. Time stretches. Music sounds like it was made specifically for this moment. For others, especially at higher doses, it tips the other way. Paranoia tightens in. Thoughts loop. The heart beats faster, and something feels wrong in a way you can't locate. The come down is gentle for most, a gradual return to ordinary speed with some tiredness trailing behind. But regular use quietly changes things underneath. Motivation loses some of its edge. Memory takes small, steady hits. The brain's reward system starts to need THC to reach the kind of relaxation it used to get to on its own. Marijuana isn't physically addictive the way opioids are, but about 1 in 10 people who use it regularly develop a dependence. It's the drug most people call harmless. Harmless isn't quite the right word. Subtle is closer. Adderall. Adderall is a prescription stimulant made from amphetamine salts, developed to treat attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and narcolepsy. It comes as a pill. For people with ADHD, it corrects a brain that underproduces the chemicals needed to hold attention. For everyone else, it's borrowed focus. When it enters your system, the onset is smooth and convincing. Thoughts that scattered start to organize. Tasks that felt impossible become approachable. You can sit with something for hours without your mind looking for an exit. That's the peak. Work moves faster. Ideas connect cleanly. Time disappears into productivity in a way that feels earned, but isn't. Then it wears off. The mind goes foggy. Motivation evaporates. Even simple tasks feel like they're underwater. The contrast between on and off is its own kind of trap, because your brain starts measuring everything against how it functioned with the drug in it. Over time, taking Adderall without needing it trains your brain to stop generating focus and motivation on its own. The natural system gets lazy because the pill is doing the work. Adderall is addictive in a way that looks nothing like addiction. It looks like needing it to get through the day, which is exactly what it becomes. The focus it gives you is real. The cost is that it slowly makes your brain unable to find that focus without it. Cocaine. Cocaine is a powerful stimulant made from the coca plant. It's most often snorted as a white powder, but can be smoked or injected. Once it reaches your brain, it blocks the recycling of dopamine. Normally, dopamine does its job and gets cleared away. Cocaine stops the clearing. Dopamine stacks up, flooding your brain's reward system with a signal it was never built to handle at that level. The onset is almost instant. A surge of energy, confidence, and mental clarity that arrives before you finish the thought. Your heart pounds, your pupils widen. Every idea feels sharp and correct. You feel fast, capable, and ahead of everything. That's the peak, and it's convincing. But the brain is burning through its fuel at full speed with no way to slow down. The high is sharp and brief. Within 20 to 30 minutes, dopamine crashes hard. Anxiety moves in. Mood drops. Exhaustion arrives. The version of yourself that felt untouchable is gone, and the gap between how you felt then and how you feel now is the most uncomfortable thing you've experienced. That gap is what people use more cocaine to close. Cocaine is highly addictive because the brain connects it with a level of pleasure and control that nothing natural comes close to. Each hit makes the next craving stronger and the come down harder. Over time, it damages the heart, tightens arteries, and rewires the reward system until normal life stops feeling like enough. The confidence cocaine gives you is the most expensive thing you'll ever feel. MDMA, methylene dioxymethamphetamine. MDMA, known as Ecstasy or Molly, is a synthetic drug that works as both a stimulant and a mild hallucinogen. It's usually swallowed as a pill or powder, most often at parties, raves, or festivals. When it enters your brain, it triggers a massive simultaneous release of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. Serotonin handles mood and warmth. Oxytocin handles connection and trust. All of it at once. The onset builds over 30 to 60 minutes. Warmth spreads through your chest. Music feels like it's moving through you instead of past you. Strangers feel familiar. Friends feel like family. Everything that usually keeps you guarded goes quiet. At the peak, emotional walls come down completely. You talk openly. You dance for hours without noticing. You feel a kind of connection to the people around you that seems more real than anything you felt sober. That's the peak, and for many people, it's the most connected they've ever felt. Then the serotonin runs dry. The brain doesn't stockpile it. What MDMA releases in a night takes days to rebuild. The come-down starts with flatness. Then comes low mood, exhaustion, and sometimes a sadness that has no specific cause. Used regularly, MDMA damages the neurons that produce serotonin. Natural happiness becomes harder to reach. Physically, it overheats the body, strains the heart, and in rare cases, causes dangerous drops in sodium levels. MDMA makes you feel more connected to other people than almost any other drug. What it doesn't tell you is that it's spending the resources your brain needs to feel that way naturally. Methamphetamine. Methamphetamine is a powerful stimulant that forces your brain to release massive amounts of dopamine, noradrenaline, and serotonin all at once. It's smoked, snorted, swallowed, or injected, and it works within seconds. The onset isn't gradual. It arrives like a switch being thrown. Energy floods your body. Your heart races. Thoughts sharpen into something that feels almost frantic with purpose. Fatigue is irrelevant. Sleep feels like something other people need. At the peak, the intensity is total. Confidence tips into invincibility. Ordinary tasks become urgent missions. You could talk for hours, work all night, feel like every decision you're making is correct. Your brain is releasing more dopamine in one session than it would over days of normal life. Then the supply runs out. The come down from meth isn't a mood drop, it's a system failure. Depression sets in heavily. Paranoia arrives. Sleep is broken even though your body is completely exhausted. The brain, stripped of its dopamine reserves, has no way to generate normal pleasure. That can last for days. Meth is one of the most addictive drugs that exists because the high is so far above any natural state that ordinary life becomes genuinely unbearable by comparison. Repeated use physically damages dopamine-producing neurons. Brain scans of long-term users show measurable loss in the regions responsible for memory, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Meth makes you feel like you have unlimited energy and ability. It's just running on your reserves, and when they're gone, it takes them with it. Xanax. Xanax is a benzodiazepine, a sedative prescribed to treat anxiety, panic attacks, and insomnia. It comes as a small pill. It works by boosting the effect of GABA, a chemical your brain uses to slow itself down and reduce activity. The onset feels like relief arriving. Muscles that were tight soften. Thoughts that were racing slow to a manageable pace. The sharp anxiety that was sitting on your chest starts to lift. Your heartbeat settles. The world stops pressing in as hard. That's the onset, and for someone in the middle of a panic attack, it can feel like being pulled back from an edge. At the peak, everything is soft and distant. Worry doesn't disappear exactly. It just stops feeling urgent. Sleep comes easily. For a short time, your nervous system finally gets quiet. Then the drug wears off and a rebound starts. Anxiety returns, sometimes sharper than before. The brain's own calming system has been doing less work because Xanax was handling it, and now it's slow to pick the load back up. Regular use teaches your brain to depend on the drug for a calm it should be generating itself. Tolerance builds fast, meaning you need more for the same effect. Stopping suddenly after regular use isn't just uncomfortable, it can cause tremors, confusion, and seizures. Xanax withdrawal is one of the medically dangerous ones. It quiets the mind faster than almost any other drug. The problem is that the mind starts to forget how to quiet itself. DMT. DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, is a naturally occurring hallucinogen found in trace amounts in plants, animals, and even the human body itself. It's usually smoked or vaporized as a concentrated crystal or powder, or drunk as part of a brew called ayahuasca. It works on serotonin receptors, the same ones that shape how your brain interprets what is real. The onset when smoked is unlike anything else on this list. It hits within 30 seconds. There is no gradual build. One moment you're in the room, then the room is gone. That's the onset, and it's total. At the peak, which lasts only 10 to 20 minutes when smoked, users consistently describe entering a completely separate reality. Not a distortion of this one, a replacement. Geometric structures of impossible complexity, encounters with presences that feel aware and deliberate. A complete loss of the sense that you have a body, a name, or a life happening anywhere outside of this moment. Some call it the most profound experience of their lives. Others call it the most terrifying. Most say it was both at the same time. The come down is abrupt. Reality returns in seconds. You're back in your body, aware of your hands, the floor, your breathing. The world looks ordinary and slightly unreal at once. DMT is not considered addictive. Tolerance develops so rapidly that repeated use within days produces almost no effect. It causes no organ damage and no physical withdrawal. But it's the most powerful hallucinogen ever documented, and an unprepared mind can be genuinely unsettled by what it finds there. DMT doesn't alter your perception of reality. For the time it's active, it takes reality away entirely. GHB. GHB, or gamma-hydroxybutyrate, is a depressant that exists naturally in the brain in tiny amounts but is produced as a clear, odorless liquid or white powder for recreational use. It's swallowed, usually dissolved into a drink. It works by binding to GABA receptors and its own dedicated GHB receptors, slowing down brain activity while releasing a wave of dopamine. The onset takes 15 to 30 minutes. At a low dose, it feels sociable and warm. Inhibitions drop. Muscles relax. There's a loose, open feeling that sits somewhere between alcohol and euphoria. You feel easy and light and good. That's the onset, and at the right dose, that's also the peak. The problem is that GHB has one of the narrowest margins between a working dose and an overdose of any drug that exists. Half a milliliter more than intended, and you don't feel worse. You don't feel anything. You lose consciousness, sometimes mid-sentence, with no warning beforehand. The come-down brings nausea and disorientation as the body clears it quickly. GHB is physically addictive, and its withdrawal is medically dangerous, comparable to alcohol and benzodiazepines. Stopping suddenly after regular use can cause seizures and delirium without medical supervision. Long-term use damages memory, disrupts sleep permanently, and blunts emotional response. It also has no taste and cannot be detected in a drink by sight or smell. GHB is dangerous in one very specific way. The line between feeling good and losing control is invisible until you've already crossed it. Opioids. Opioids are a class of drugs that come from the opium poppy or are made synthetically to mimic it. Medically, they're morphine, codeine, and oxycodone. On the street, they're heroin and fentanyl. They're swallowed, smoked, snorted, or injected. All of them work the same way. They bind to opioid receptors throughout your brain and spinal cord, the same receptors your brain uses to manage pain, process stress, and produce the feeling of warmth and safety that comes when something is deeply okay. The onset brings a wave of relief that goes beyond the physical. Pain disappears. Not reduced, gone. The weight you carry through ordinary life, the low-level anxiety, the things you haven't dealt with, all of it lifts. What's left is a heavy, complete calm. It's been described as feeling safer than you've ever felt. At the peak, everything slows. Breathing deepens. Thoughts drift without urgency or edge. It's not energetic, it's the opposite. It's the world going quiet all at once. Then the body adapts, faster than with almost any other drug. Tolerance builds in days. The brain reduces its own natural painkiller production because opioids are covering it. The dose that worked last week barely registers today. Soon, you're not taking them for the high. You're taking them to hold off what happens without them. Withdrawal is one of the most physically painful experiences a human body can go through. Sweating, vomiting, muscle cramps, insomnia, and a craving that overrides almost every other thought. Fentanyl, which now contaminates most of the illegal supply, is 100 times more potent than morphine. A dose that looks identical to a safe one can stop your breathing. Opioids are the most addictive substances the human brain has ever encountered because they take over the very system your brain uses to feel that being alive is worth it. The warmth they give at the start is real. They spend the rest of your life collecting it back. That's 12 drugs. 12 different chemicals, 12 different mechanisms, 12 different ways of feeling something you wanted to feel. But here's the one thing they all have in common. Not one of them created anything your brain wasn't already capable of. Every high, every calm, every rush of confidence or connection or relief, your brain has its own version of all of it. The drugs didn't build new rooms, they just kicked the doors open. The reason they're hard to stop isn't weakness, it's that the brain genuinely cannot tell the difference between the real version and the chemical one. It responds the same way to both. It wants more of both. That's not a flaw in the person using them, that's just how the brain was built. And every drug on this list knows exactly how to use it.